Good morning, everybody. It is now 8:03, and we are going to begin the property committee meeting. Our first agenda item is the middle school renovations and additions update, which will be led by Doug Taylor from CHA, and also Dan D'Amico from Schrader will be joining us at some point through the presentation, but we'll start with Doug. So I'll turn it over to Doug.
Thank you, Kara. Good morning, guys. I'm going to provide as brief as possible update on the middle school project and bring you up to speed with where we are. So I'm going to touch on the design and approvals, the schedule and budget, phasing drawings, and then this will roll into the 2024 summer projects afterward. So this is the section that Dan was going to cover, but because he's not here, I'm going to just fill in for him. As you guys are aware, Schrader Group has done a good bit of work documenting this project. And we went from the schematic design phase to the design development phase to the now construction document phase. So they've really progressed in their drawings. And this is an example of, how many drawings were in the set originally and now how many documents it takes to document a project like this. So there's nearly 300 drawings that are prepared that we will be sending out to bidders to procure the bid. So they've done a lot of work from when we last discussed this. This is an example of a floor plan in the schematic phase, and now you can see the amount of detail that's gone into the drawing since we've finalized the design and are moving forward with all of the detailing and tying it into the structure, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and integrating the entire set of drawings. This is, again, a section of building. This is the clinical suite and incidence classrooms up in the corner. And again, the detailing, the section bubbles to show how the building will be constructed so that the bidders know exactly how to assign values to the project. Now we have our framing drawings further along. The structural engineers are fully engaged and wrapping up the structural components of the project. The HVAC drawings you can see were in pretty good shape. You can see on the very top there, that's the cafeteria, and to the left is the kitchen. To the right's the new admin area, and the amount of detail that is now on those drawings as compared to, you can go back and see this was schematic, how it would generally look. And now that we know exactly what we're doing, you can see the difference and the amount of effort that's gone into this. These are the light fixtures as we show the new lighting around the facility and power. And then a rendering of the project. And it doesn't look like the site is rendered here, but the building additions are, so you can get a sense of the new auditorium in the lower right-hand side of the building with the entrance coming out of the tunnel, the little jet out just on the bottom of the page, the bus canopy, if we were to construct it. And then the new entrance just beyond that, you can see the large tree that remains and the new admin entrance and the classroom infill on the other side of the building. So you get a sense of how this will mass out when it's completed. And then there's a couple renderings. This is the new entry. And just behind that automobile is the office area. To the left is the library, and you can see we've added a set of doors to access the library as well. This is inside the new entrance. Just to the right is the interior set of secure entry doors. So there is a secure entrance before you can get into the building. You're forced into the entry, into the building, and then you can be released to the other side through the door on the left. Just an image of the new office, the reception area within the office. And again, with a good view of the entrance. So there's always good views of observing folks coming in and out of the building. This was the stage off of the gymnasium, and it will now become a health classroom and the fitness center. And there's flexibility. You can see beyond, there's a what you see is a linear line in the ceiling. That's actually the track for an operable partition. That partition can be closed and secure it for classrooms on one side and fitness on the other, or open it up and offer it as one large space. Very flexible space. This is a shot inside the new auditorium. And it's hard to see here, but if you look on the left and right side, you walk from the floor, from the aisles, around those railings, and right up onto the stage floor. So there's no need for stairs. You can simply walk around the perimeter of the auditorium right up onto the stage floor. That's a quick overview of the project from a construction document phase. But then the next item that we are encountering some challenge on, I would say, are the proposed toilet rooms. And Dr. Yannicka, maybe you want to touch on this since you may have had some conversation.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So as I've shared, I think briefly with the board over the last few weeks, we are in the process of review and hopefully approval of our universal design for the restrooms, both adjacent to the cafeteria as well as in each of the on each of the floors in the academic wing for our bathrooms. And the universal design concept is that we would have individual stalls with an open hallway, and that would allow us, from a safety standpoint, to have cameras that are aimed right around where that says B213. We would be able to have cameras to see into the restroom area. This would help us with some of the behavioral questions that come up sometimes with adolescents. So things like altercations, verbal or physical, that occur sometimes in restrooms, vaping, and other types of concerning behaviors from students when they are in a closed restroom facility. In an open restroom facility, this will allow us to provide greater supervision and safety. It's also a universal design model. The reason why we're going through a review and approval process with the township is that we are in the midst of a crossover from an older code on the left there, 2902.2 separate facilities, to the current federal code, which is in the process of being adopted by the state of Pennsylvania, on the right. And you can see there in yellow, there's a change to the code that was approved at the federal level that, again, is slated to be finally approved in the state of Pennsylvania next July, but is going through the review and approval process statewide currently. And so essentially it allows us to utilize this contemporary universal design style for restrooms. And so, yeah, Doug, I'd love you to go to that photo. So this is the restrooms adjacent to the cafeteria. And you'll see that we're also looking at an open concept for the lunchroom, where we're going to be taking down that exterior wall or interior wall of the cafeteria, where to your left off screen is the auditorium entrance and the gymnasium entrance. And then to the right of the lunchroom, we currently have a series of we have the Audion, we have some restrooms, we also have what is going to be to the right and off screen, the new main office. But without a wall, this open concept restroom area allows for anyone to utilize individual stalls. It will also include one larger accessible stall for anyone who might be in a wheelchair. But you can see that the doors are floor to ceiling. That allows for total privacy in each individual stall, and then a shared sink area. And again, because it's a wide open concept in the area between those stalls and the sinks, we really have much greater supervision of students and community members when using the restroom area, but not using the individual stalls. So we expect and we certainly anticipate that the township will be supportive of this design, but because we're in the middle of an older code and a newer code in the state of Pennsylvania over the next few months, we are going through a review and approval process with the township. Doug, did I miss anything?
No, it was nicely done.
Thank you. Are there any
The
questions from the board about this?
Yeah, I have a question. Just, I guess, just to be for more clarity, so the expectation is that they'll provide the variance, or is that just like, have they indicated that they're leaning towards that, or are they sort of
Well, we don't have a specific leaning because we haven't yet had the appeal. So
okay?
the code enforcer is following the procedures that they are expected to follow. And so we are anticipating a hearing in the near future. We don't have a date just yet, but in the near future where we can present our rationale for this design and why we're asking them to follow the newer code versus the older code. I certainly hope these are very common restroom designs. You find these in restaurants these days, you find them in other schools, you find them in other locations. So I would hope that this would be an easy approval process. But once again, the township ultimately needs to make the call whether they will allow us to follow a code that isn't yet fully approved in the state of Pennsylvania. It is, again, anticipated to be approved early in 2025. One of the questions around this is that this is in a universal design model. All genders use the same restroom facilities, and that is in keeping with our board policy, but something that obviously is a change for some members of the community. So we want to make sure that we are conveying our rationale for this being a safer and more universal approach to access to restroom facilities across the middle school.
So, so should we just anticipate letting the process play out, or would it be helpful to communicate for any of us board members to communicate with commissioners, or would that be unhelpful?
Well, at this time, I think it's a little premature.
Okay.
We aren't at the commissioner level yet. I actually had a brief conversation where I learned a little bit more, and I have a follow-up conversation with the township manager today. It's my understanding we'll be presenting our appeal to an independent board who the township commissioners have hired to manage code enforcement. And then following that, if we are approved, we're done. If that independent board decides that we need to go to the commissioners, then we'll be presenting to them. And then I may ask you, Neil, as the committee chair, perhaps to join us to share why the school board and the district are interested in this particular design versus a more, I'll say, old-fashioned design.
Gotcha. Okay, great.
The old bathrooms are called gang-style bathrooms. That's really outdated, but that style of restroom is really not common anymore in new design. This is far more common.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've encountered this in other schools when we go for swimming and water polo things. So I've, seen this in action. Seems great.
Yes.
Yeah, we're actually putting these in the new Hatboro Horsham Keith Valley Middle School project. So not far away. This is being implemented in new construction.
It's great.
I think for me as a former building administrator, the safety component of this is number one. That some of the behaviors that occur in restrooms because you're behind closed doors would no longer be the case. And the stalls are wide enough for somebody to walk in and use a toilet. I think Doug calls them toilet rooms, and that's exactly, they are just that large. The other thing about these toilet rooms that we're learning is that the newer smoke and vape detectors are far more effective in these smaller spaces.
Oh, great.
So we're actually going to wire them for those vape detectors in each of the stalls, which will also help us to minimize that behavior in our restrooms during the school day.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for covering that.
Of course.
I have a quick question. Could you just help us understand there's a lot of talk about the bathrooms, which it's good, they're important. How much potential delay or change to the timeline does this code review potentially build into the project?
So we have actually intentionally pushed the bidding process back a bit. We're going to talk about the schedule shortly. We're still waiting. Aside to this, we're still waiting for the final Montgomery County Conservation District NPDES approval process. So once we, so this will kind of parallel that, and I think this will probably be resolved before even the final land development approval, is my guess. So I don't think it's going to have an impact on us. We do have a plan B if we have to implement it, but I don't really want to focus on plan B because I think this is what we want to do. But I think that we'll be okay from a schedule standpoint overall.
Okay, I would just ask, and Dr. Yannicka, maybe this is for you as we work with the township, just be crystal clear on implications for the larger project and impact on kids and our ability to get them into the school on the timeline that we anticipated, if there's any delays in that process.
Understood. Happy to do that.
It's a good point.
I have a question, not about the bathrooms, but of the design, because I know we had talked something about making the circle bigger if that was possible, because yesterday there was 2 long buses trying to get into the circle to pick up kids for an away football game and an away field hockey game. And the buses couldn't really navigate that circle. They were going over the curb. And of course, because the time they're picking up the kids to take them to an away game is the same time we're lined up for pickup at the end of the school day. So we all had to move out of the circle to get the buses through, and they could barely navigate through, and it was messy. So I don't know if there's an option to either keep the long buses out of the circle, if there's another place they can pick up students for going to those away games or what. But I just seeing the bus like go over the curb that way scared the crap out of me.
Understood, Eileen. I'll have to take a look at that. I'll have a conversation with our middle school principal. We do have some options, obviously, throughout the lot for where pickup and drop off could be. We did talk about the flow of the circle, and I do believe we've resolved some of the concerns around that in the current design. But Doug and I can take that back to the team and just double check it as we're planning.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. So that was the end of the Schrader Group portion of this, and we're going to slide into the rest of the middle school presentation. And just some of the activities to date, we have completed our due diligence investigations. I think the last couple of things we did was bring a contractor in to confirm what the construction was beneath the Audion stage to be sure that we were documenting that appropriately for demolition. Taking a look at if we were to move forward with the alternate for unit ventilator replacement in classrooms, making sure that the louver design from the interior to the exterior is something we could punch through that wall without any issue. So we had them remove some panels to see what that wall construction was, so we weren't surprised during the project. We did some work to try to locate the storm lines coming from the high school over through the middle school site and to establish the depth of those. So again, everything we can do to try to identify the scope on the bid documents to minimize, the impact of change orders after the fact. So I think everyone's done a good job trying to collect that information. We've had a lot of programming and follow-up meetings. The architect, as we showed you, is in the construction document phase now. There are some possible sustainable features that would be alternate bid items. One is base bid. It's an expansion of the existing geothermal well field. So that is happening. The photovoltaic or solar panels on select roof areas and a green roof area in lieu of solar panels. So if we couldn't afford the solar panels, but maybe we could afford a green roof instead, just providing us with some options once we open up bids and see what the value of the project is. Pretty much wrapped up design phase meetings this week. We may have 1 or 2 trailers, but I think we're in pretty good shape all the way around. We are developing the general conditions and bid forms, which we'll share with your solicitor shortly, so everyone's on the same page with the legal language in the front of the spec. Final approvals. So we need the Montgomery County Conservation District NPDES permit. We did receive a fairly sizable review letter back. However, most of the items are benign. There's just a handful of items that the civil engineer has to go back and forth with the conservation district and they've been helpful. They're actually meeting with the civil engineer to talk about what the items are and trying to iron them out before we reply with a formal submission. So in an effort to get these things resolved. The sewer planning module exemption, which is just paperwork, which is being processed. And then just being sure we satisfy the Board of Commissioners conditional approval items that they provided when they gave us permission to move forward with the approval process. So we're going to resubmit to the Conservation District. We're going to seek the planning module exemption, and we're going to pursue the toilet room variance. Those are the final land development pieces that we need to resolve in order to receive a permit to move forward with construction. So we're going to need the next couple of months to do that, and I'll explain that in the schedule update shortly. From a construction document phase, the drawings are being finalized by Schrader Group. We're finalizing the building and site phasing. Some of that is coordinated with the Conservation District sequence of operations, and I'll explain that shortly. And we're finalizing the construction document budget, the final budget. I'm going to be wrapping that up with our estimating team later this afternoon and talking to Kara and team about that shortly. We'll continue managing the budget approval schedule and document review process. We're going to reply to Schrader Group with all of the drawings that they provided. Our team reviewed those, and we put comments on those to share with the architect as an extra set of eyes. And they'll be able to review those comments and implement any of those changes or pickups that we've identified so that we make those drawings as sound as possible. As good as a team is at putting something together, when a fresh set of eyes looks at something, they usually see things that pop out that you may not see when you're looking at it over and over again. So it's more of a helpful set of eyes. And we're preparing for the October 15th staff student parent presentations, which I'm not sure if you're aware of those, but that's something that we're planning for next month. Moving on to the schedule, budget, and alternates. This is a list of just some of the key milestone items for the schedule. I'm not going to review all of this. The teal side is the side that was the original schedule, and the green side is the side that we bumped some dates to make this work from an approval standpoint. And the reason that I say that is we don't want to receive bids before we have resolved the Conservation District issues or even the toilet room issues, if possible, because it could change the scope of the project. And the last thing we want to do is put the district in a position where there could be change orders before we even start construction. So once we resolve the Conservation District review letter items, I think that we'll be in good shape to update those drawings, even via addenda if necessary, so that the contractors are bidding the complete scope of site work. And what that could impact is the size of an underground stormwater basin adjacent to the baseball field. So that could increase the scope because the size of an underground basin could increase. So that's something that we're following closely, but this push of the dates will help. So we were going to go out to bid October 1st, line item 9. We pushed that to the 15th of October. There was a mandatory pre-bid scheduled for the 8th of October. We pushed that to the 24th of October. The receipt of bids was going to be 7 November, actually bumped it to December 3rd. And the reason for that is exactly what I mentioned, is we want to get through this approval process and any cost-related items before we receive the bids. And actually, with Thanksgiving and hunting and everything else in the middle of that bid process, it probably makes sense with contractors especially to give them a little more time to bid the job, because they will lose some time in the office. And reviewing the bid results with the property committee, we're going to push that to December 10th. And then this is where we're asking, for your, respectfully, your help in a special meeting, or however it works, is to review the bids and award the bids January 7th. So that wasn't the planned approval date, but I think we want to make sure we have ample time to get this awarded. And we want to make sure we have the approvals in place before the board awards the project.
So
And then
let me just jump in there. So for the board members, you may recall historically, we schedule an interim board meeting for the second Tuesday in January, or the first Tuesday in January. And oftentimes we cancel that meeting because we don't need it. This year, we're going to need that meeting in order to stay on track with our project. So we will be calling an interim board meeting on the 7th.
I'm sorry if I announced that first, Dr. Yannicone.
No, it's no problem at all.
Sorry. And then once we have the board approval, we actually need a good bit of time to execute the contracts. We'll issue an intent to award. The contractors will provide us with their bonds, their insurance. We'll have that reviewed by the solicitor, by the insurance agent. We'll review the documents. Once we recognize that everything is in line, then we will we'll get those fully executed. And then we'll issue the notice to proceed. And the notice to proceed is the official notice from when the timing of that construction schedule starts. And our goal is to issue it on or before February 3rd. And that month really doesn't hurt us too much. We were going to start construction in around January 3rd initially. So now we're just pushing it 1 month. The key to getting this awarded early, and say, well, what are they going to do? The ground's frozen. There's not a lot they can do, but we will ask them to come in and start getting the staging area ready, start working on site utilities around the auditorium. And I'll talk more about that momentarily. But even more important is getting the submittal process going. So all of the products that go into this building have to be submitted, reviewed by the design team, and then returned so that then from that point, they can order the material. So that February, March timeline allows us to inundate the architect and the design team with submittals, have them review them, and get those back. So now everything's being ordered. And when we get to June and students leave, we have materials and trailers are stored ready to go to start working on the project. And then the construction phase final completion would still be 30 December 26. So we're looking to finish this by the end of 26. And that's primarily with site work. And I'll show you the phasing schedule in a moment. If you guys have any questions on this, I'm happy to answer those. So we haven't, I don't think we had a chance to present to you the design development budget. We've talked about the schematic design budget when we were in front of you the last meeting, but this is the design development budget. So there were some changes relative to the cost. Some of it relates to additional square footage. Some of it relates to having more information relative to mechanical design. As I showed you the drawings, it went from a very schematic design to something more involved. Once you start to see the details, that's when you can start assigning more accurate costing to actual details versus square foot or lump sum kind of items initially. So the hard construction cost, the actual contractor's cost, is estimated at the design development phase. Now, I should say we're reviewing the drawings for the final CD budget, but I will tell you in talking with the estimating team, there's not a substantial change between design development and the final construction document. So we're not going to be too far from what I'm sharing with you today. So the 27.5 million is the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and general construction cost for site, building, and everything in between. The soft costs are the costs associated with fees and permits, inspections, phasing and logistics, design and estimating, contingency. At the design development stage, we're still carrying $500,000 worth of design and estimating contingencies while the drawings are finally developed and the programming is wrapping up. And then we are carrying a $1.5 million construction contingency as well. So there are, and also allowances in the project. So there's, a good number of, a good bit of cost are associated with some contingencies and allowance monies as well. So that $6.6 million contingency, it was reduced because we carried a higher design contingency of $1 million. It was reduced to $500,000. And The total project cost is estimated at about $34 million. And again, I don't think it's going to be a substantial increase from where we were at design development to the final budget. And I'll be sharing that with the district shortly. So some of the items that contributed to that adjustment, the area of renovations increased by about 1,500 square feet. So that obviously has an impact on the cost. The new construction increased by about 1,000 square feet. And that's just natural as a project develops and we go through programming and we talk about what the needs and wants are and what we have to incorporate in the program. That obviously relates to square footage. So we had some jumps in square footage, but some of that was offset by that design contingency. It should say geothermal well field and central plant upgrades. Soils exchange at the area of the auditorium. If you're familiar with the site, there's some cones on the site. There's some soils conditions next to the auditorium. As soon as we start construction and they work the utilities out around that area, they're going to go in and perform a soils exchange, meaning they're going to take those soils out that are problematic, dispose of those soils legally off-site, and then we're going to put back engineered fill or stone in layers of stone compacted and building that area back up to a building pad for the new construction. So there's a cost associated with taking soil out and bringing stone in to stabilize that area. The storm line relocations, we have a significant storm line. It's a 30-inch line coming from the high school under 309, and then it enters our middle school site and goes right through where the auditorium wants to be. So we're going to intercept it after it comes under 309, and it's in good shape. We scoped it with cameras. Under 309 is not problematic. It's not really problematic anywhere other than it runs underneath our building. So we're going to reroute it around the building. So if there are any future issues with that line, we're obviously not tearing an auditorium floor up to get to a storm line that's 13 feet deep. So we're going to reroute that. And then there's some site retaining walls, stairs, and some other site utility relocations that were contributing factors to that increase. In addition, we are including some alternate bid items. Generally, these are all add alternates. So we'll have a base bid for the work, and then these will be things that we could add to the project pending where the base bid comes in, what your ultimate budget is, and what you might want to consider to be added to the project. And unclassified excavations is generally a number that contractors give us that if they were to encounter rock, they would remove it at no additional cost based on whatever this alternate number is. So we ask them for this alternate to see if some contractors will give you a favorable number to give themselves an advantage to get a job. They'll look at the geotech reports that are included in the specification to ascertain what the subsurface conditions are. And they may say, hey, we don't think we're going to hit any rock. If we hit rock, we'll do it for $1,000, right? And we'll say, we'll absolutely take that alternate. And if they hit rock and it exceeds $1,000 worth of rock removal, it's on them because they gave us an unclassified number, of a favorable number. So we'll look at those numbers. Engineered fill at the building pads, anywhere we have those additions, the kitchen, the classroom addition, we take out 18 inches of earth, we put in stone, and that allows the contractors to continue to keep moving even in, when it's wet and rainy, where those additions are. This shouldn't be a giant number because the auditorium already is part of that in the base bid. So we'll see if that's worthy. Increasing a warranty from 1 year to 2 years. Most construction projects, you get a 1-year warranty. We would ask them for the value to extend that to 2 years and see if it's worthwhile, if the value's there for the district. Using sod in lieu of grass at certain areas of the project. Obviously, the baseball field reconstruction will be sodded in the base bid because we need to establish that quickly. Milling and overlaying paving. We're splitting the site into 2 halves. And if we want to mill and overlay the existing parking lots and driveways at the end of the project, this gives us a cost to do that in 2 halves of the site. A new bus canopy to replace the canopy that was in place. Alternate 8 is a 30-year roof in lieu of a 20-year roof warranty. 9 is a new electric substation to support the solar panel. So the electrical system as it exists would not support what it takes to energize and exchange power with the solar system. So if we want to do a solar system, we have to replace the electric substation to support that alternate. Then we would select alternate 10, that would be the auditorium, and or 11, which would be the low incidence wing, and or 12, which would be the 3-story classroom wing. So there's a combination of those that we could select depending on the values that we'll see in the bid. In addition, alternate 13 is if we can't afford the photovoltaic on the auditorium roof, maybe we can go with a green roof, which might be less expensive and still gives us some green features on the project. Alternate 14 is to replace the unit ventilators in the classrooms. 15 is they're louvers at the cafeteria windows, similar to what's on the classroom wing now, which provides you with some sun shading in that area. And so there's some, minimal energy savings with that, but it does provide you with a more comfortable space and eliminate some of that heat gain you might find. The flooring, alternate 16, is to use a standard VCT floor like you see in most classrooms, a 12-inch tile, in lieu of the luxury vinyl tile. We're specifying a 2-foot by 2-foot tile floor, which doesn't require waxing. It's a lot of benefits to what the base bid is, but there's really not a lot of alternates for cost control measures. So we just want to have something here to help us a little bit. And then alternate 17 is to replace the water softener. So that's the list of alternates the contractors will be providing in addition to the base bid. Any questions on the alternates? Okay, probably boring you guys. So the phasing drawings, just to go over these quickly, we do have, these are phasing drawings that have been distilled down to something very basic just to explain what the timing of each one of these areas are from start to finish. But the drawings that we issue the contractors have very detailed milestone dates that we use to track construction, to hold contractors accountable for when each phase of the construction in each one of these areas needs to be complete, meaning when's it watertight, when's the temporary heat on, when does the HVAC system have to be, above ceiling inspections, HVAC systems commissioned, and so forth. So there's a lot of other dates. But so initially, the project will start from a building perspective with the auditorium pad, the glass link along the bottom that ties this into the music suite and the stage renovation. So they're basically both starting around end of January, beginning of February. The stage conversion to fitness and LGE finishes 25 August, so the summer of 25. And the auditorium continues through the end of the summer in 26. That area is going to require a good bit of time to construct and complete. Something to note, you see those little circles with the triangles at the end. That's just documenting that we need to maintain through temporary measures that the contractor would provide continued egress from those areas for students for emergency only, not for day-to-day. We'll reroute the kids other ways around construction, but only in an emergency situation. So how that relates to the site, you can see on the bottom of the sheet, February of 25 to August of 26, the area where the baseball field is will be disturbed for staging. The contractor's trailers, storage, the geothermal well field happens in that area, and underground stormwater basin happens in that area. So that will be contractors' use through August of 26 until we then convert it to a baseball field again. And to the left of that, where the kitchen addition is February, or that's the auditorium, February of 25 through August of 26. So that piece of the project is over a year. And then we have in the upper area of the building, left side, June of 25 to December of 25 is where we're going to have staging outside to support the work that happens inside for the administration office renovation that's happening in the corner of that building. The traffic will looping through will have to be on the upper loop versus coming down through the bottom while we do work in this area, and then students will be dropped off at a different section of the building during that phase. The upper very top, June of 25 to August of 25, that's the portion of parking lot that gets reconfigured, and also has a large underground basin being installed. So in the first summer, we're going to go in there, we're going to fence it off, we're going to maintain access to the site in the outer loop drive. And we're going to put the basin in, we're going to get the curbs in and put the base course paving with temporary striping. So that'll all be in shape come August of 25 when students and staff return. But it'll be, it won't be the final paving, it'll be the base paving with temporary striping so that we're not going to damage it before we finish the project. And something else that's very important at the top, you'll see the green tree buffer. As part of the middle school athletics event grading project that's starting now, the township requested that we install a planted buffer between those properties and the district's property. So so we didn't attach it to the events project. We included as part of the bigger project, and they allowed us to do so. But they did ask that that be planted in early spring of 25. So we're asking contractors to put that buffer in early. So heading back into the building, the lower left is the auditorium, which we've talked about. That finishes in the summer of 26. Phase 1C, the admin area, is the summer of 25 through December of 25. That's going to take about 6 months. And you saw that we had that outside area of construction phasing. So the contractors could stage and work in and out of the building at that area. So they're not moving through the building from other areas to construct that. So we're trying to keep their activities isolated from what's happening in the building. There will be temporary partitions built in the hallway. You can see kind of a dotted line that carves out a portion of the hallway so that this area is 100% isolated. We use negative air pressure. We put partitions floor to ceiling, insulated, painted. So we will separate this construction, the absolute best way we can from the daily activities of the school, because we recognize it's students and staff first and construction second. And we'll always work under that way. So again, we're worried about egress. So we have on the left side of the sheet, those little circles. You can see that we want to make sure that we have some emergency egress that contractors recognize. Sometimes that's scaffolding that you can walk beneath with plywood above. Again, it's only an emergency, but that would protect anyone running through that area to get out in an emergency from construction activities. And same at the top where the new entrance will be. There's phase 1B, that's special. The 1B is the special services area, or the low incidence, the ADA ramp that we're putting in. We're going to split that stair into two. We're going to have a smaller stair with a ramp next to it. And classroom B209, which is the little classroom you see there in the middle. All of that is going to happen June of 25 to August of 25. So this first summer, that work will happen. It's a lot of work to happen in a summer. We're going to require the contractors work second shift at this area, because it's key to the school district that those spaces are ready for next school year, so that we have enough spaces and we're not interrupting the art and the STEM spaces on the opposite side of the hall while you have construction on the opposite side. So we're going to ensure that the contractors get in there and knock that out through 2 shifts and have it ready for the summer, by the end of the summer. Again, this is just phase 1A.2, wrapping up the auditorium in August of 26. And then the toilet rooms and the shower work in the existing showers are going to happen in the summer of 26. So the summer of 26 will go to all 3 of those, what are currently gang toilet rooms, and we'll modify those to the new universal design at each one of the 3 floors, and then do the other small toilet room renovations that same summer. So that's all planned for the second summer. The kitchen renovations will actually start around March of 26 and finish in the summer of 26. So come March of 26, we're talking about we're still talking about what finally will happen relative to how food will be served or delivered, but we are going to include in the documents a partition wall at the cafeteria, because the cafeteria will not start until kids are out in that last summer. So the cafeteria will be renovated last. So we'll renovate the kitchen, get it ready, and then renovate the cafeteria. When we return in August of 26 or September of 26, everything will be ready to go for that school year. But we're going to interrupt that service in March of 26 and put a temporary serving line in on the cafeteria side with data and power for point of service, for some coolers, stand-up fridge, freezer units, or heaters, and either bring the food in and serve it from there. I think that's the initial thought on how this might work. But either way, we're going to provide you with that ability to serve students out of that space. We currently did that at a school in Council Rock, where we actually took the gym, half the gym, and we put a temporary serving line in, and the district brought in food and kids were eating in half of the gym, and then ultimately the gym was renovated. But it's not uncommon to try to find that. You can't possibly renovate a kitchen, all the equipment in the prep area over a 2.5 month summer. We just need the extended time to do it. So, and then the kitchen wraps up, as I said, in the summer of 26, and the toilet rooms wrap up in the summer of 26. And then we do have while we renovate that kitchen, we're going to move to the other part of that circle. Again, we have to have the upper loop for drop off, but now you can drop off. You're still dropping off up top, and we're going to have that area so the contractors are isolated to just the kitchen and cafeteria area. The cafeteria will happen in June of 26 through August of 26. So between March and August, that whole area will be interrupted, but then completed. And that is the renovations to the cafeteria, June of 26 through August of 26. And now that we've moved, in December, we'll move the admin into the new admin area on the left over by the entrance. That frees up the clinical area. And then the old admin, and we'll convert that to the clinical suite from that December through August of 26. And again, we'll have an area disturbed at the front of that area of the clinical suite to provide access for construction, and for the cafeteria on the left. But all of the building construction will be wrapped up by the end of August of 26. The site work, though, will continue from August into the December-ish range. We have to remove the stone staging area where the trailers were, restore the site where the geothermal well field was installed and a temporary basin existed where the underground stormwater management was installed. And we'll restore that with the baseball field. We'll sod that area, and it will probably need about a year before it really wants to be used. We'll also, that summer, take care of any mill and overlay of parking lots that have to happen. And into that fall, take care of any landscaping, site signs, and other things to wrap up the project. So the building will be finished in August. The site will go into the fall of 26. That's the phasing in a nutshell. It's far more detailed than that, but I did my best to just give you a quick overview. Any questions on the phasing? No.
Thanks, Doug. We'll get to our second agenda item if there's no questions on that.
No questions. It was extremely clear. And for clarity, Doug, you did not bore any of us. That was awesome detail.
All right, thank you.
So can move forward to the second agenda item, which is the 2024 capital projects update.
Okay. And Charles, feel free to interject anytime if you'd like. I'm just going to touch on some of the projects that Charles and I have going on in the district. The first project was the installation of the power and data adjacent to the track for your timing system and connection and interaction with the scoreboard. That work is complete. The photo that you see did not include the infill mix in that access panel. They have come back and put the infill mix in so it matches the surrounding area. And if you were to run over it, you won't feel anything different relative to your stepping onto it. It does make it a little heavier, but they can be lifted off. And beneath that is the power and data that you need to tie into your system. So that is complete, and we're just working on project closeout. The phase 2 roof replacement is wrapping up. That should be ready to be reviewed by Garland Roofing and us next week. And then we'll prepare a punch list and have them come back and address some of the items that need to be repaired. I have seen some roof edge that I know needs to be addressed. It's not to our satisfaction, but we'll get a list together and get this project closed out as quickly as we can. They are working after hours right now to do their work. The railing should be ready to go and installed at Erdenheim next week. It's anticipated that it's going to be delivered to the site on Monday, and they'll begin with that installation. The cores are already done in the concrete, so it's a matter of coming out and putting that railing in place and with splice plates and getting it all together and then epoxying it into the concrete. All of the fencing, the security fencing that was part of this project is in place. I do know that the gates are high. We do need to lower those a bit at the entrance to the playground area. So that's something that we'll get the contractor to address. The high school pole switch replacement has been a bit of a scheduling challenge with Pico and a back and forth with the submittals, but we're tentatively scheduled for a 22 November weekend shutdown to put a new pole in, put the new switch in, fuses, tie into the existing power, and then remove the old switch and pole. That is where we are with Pico. We've coordinated that closely with the district, and the work will be very well coordinated that weekend. And the contractor will stick around until Charles and his electrical team ensure that all of the systems are back up in the schools and that everything's copacetic before he leaves the site. So we've had those conversations and assurances from A.N. Lynch, who's actually a reputable contractor in this business. The middle school athletics and grading project. So the township required a waiver from the land development process. They felt that that was a project that required land development. We didn't agree. We respectfully asked that we could seek a waiver from that. They did grant us the waiver, but then they had us record the project with the county, which has kind of challenged the approval process. We couldn't get permits until the recording was in place. It pushed our notice to proceed date, which formally starts the contractor with their contractual obligations, from 11/14 to 11/27, which then pushes the completion to 12/13. Again, they're starting work now. We submitted for permits weeks and weeks ago. We still don't have the official building permit. I did ask when we would get the permit, and I guess they're still working on reviewing some things. I guess Mark Penicali, unfortunately, is out of the office for a bit for medical reasons, and he's instrumental in getting permits and things processed. I did, however, through the township and their inspector, get approval to move forward with the site work until they finish approving the concrete that is associated with the bleacher area and the sidewalks. But we can go ahead and get all of the storm piping in and start all the site work. So we are doing that. As you see, they put the fence up, and they're going to get started with that. And I think we're going to be okay as long as the weather cooperates. The one thing that probably won't happen this year and won't happen until the spring, and we'll have to work around the track events, the high jump area, which is obviously an asphalt area, we'll probably temporarily stripe that for the high jump and the all-weather surface will have to go on that when the temperatures cooperate, because we have to wait 30 days after that paving is installed before we can put that product down. And I don't know that we're going to, be able to responsibly do that and ensure that product's longevity. So we're going to watch it, but it'll still function as a high jump. It'll just be an asphalt area until we put the all-weather down. And then lastly, the capital improvement plan that we've been working on, the draft is near complete. I'm going through it now and assigning the values to all of the items that we identified through our logic matrix. And once I've finished that, we're going to have a draft to review with your team in October. So I think we're in pretty good shape in that regard as well. I think that concludes what I had for the updates for the summer.
Any questions on any of those projects?
Yeah, a quick question. Going back to the track timing system, I just wanted to clarify, because we're talking about the infrastructure for the timing system. So do we actually have a timing system as well that we'll be able to utilize for the next track season, or is that going to be something above and beyond this infrastructure install? I'm not sure who that question's directed at.
I can actually answer that
We have
question,
that.
Doug, if you're not sure. Charles, yeah.
We have that timing system. Everything is already up. It's functional. We've had training on it. Both Joe and the AD folks have had training. Myself was there, and our electrician was there as well with Bobby Wise. So everything is all set and ready. We have the clocks and everything.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
Well, thank you. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for your time. I had a lot of information. I'm sure it's not as exciting as it is to me, but I enjoy it. So I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Doug, for, as Mr. Bedard said, that comprehensive update, and never boring when we're doing work in the district to make our facilities and buildings improved. So thank you very much for all the work that you're doing and the team is doing.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions on those, the first two agenda items, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Watley so that he can provide some updates on what's happening on the operational side within the district.
Well, good morning. In our ongoing commitment to provide clean spaces to our students and staff, we brought in another manager with our cleaning company. Her name is Cynthia. I'll be walking her around the district tomorrow. She has a keen eye for attention to detail. We'll make sure and schedule, now that back to school nights seem to be over and the principals and assistant principals have gotten settled, we'll start to schedule some monthly walkthroughs so that they can be there and tour their building so that they feel good about what's going on. Our banners came in as well. We're gonna put those up in the high school area. We know that's a wind tunnel, so the new banners have a wing cut in them. That should allow for them to stay in place rather than be swept away with the wind. So we're gonna start putting those up. Lastly, our tunnel, our decals should be arriving soon, and then we're gonna get all the stakeholders involved. We're gonna lay them out and strategically have them placed in the tunnel, which is still white. And after that, we're going to seal it, and it should be quite the visual spectacle when you walk through it. Other than that, we continue to do stuff with our HVAC systems. Bob is on that. I think a lot of the teachers and everything are happy. We've not seen a lot of calls for those things. And I'll continue to work with the principals and the assistant principals in making sure that any issues that they see in their buildings, they're addressed quickly and expeditiously. Thank you.
Any questions on any of those updates? No? Okay, that concludes our meeting for today. There are no action items coming out of this meeting for the upcoming board meeting. So if no one else has any comments or questions, we can adjourn the meeting.
This was great. Thank you all for today. Very informative.
Perfect. Dr. Yannicone, anything?
Actually, two pieces of good news I'd love to share with the property committee, and I'll share it at an upcoming board meeting. One is that we've been asked to host representatives from Owen J. Roberts on Monday, representatives from their school board and their administration, because they want to look at our high school complex as a model for work that they are interested in doing on their own campuses, both our athletic complex outside as well as inside the building, and the total campus upgrades that we did several years ago. And in early November, we're going to host the county superintendents. So all 21 school districts will be represented at a meeting at Enfield, because we have some school districts that are interested in early learning centers. And so they want to look at Enfield as a model for that work. So in the area of facilities development, this board has made some great decisions in the past, and hopefully this new middle school project will also be a model for great planning. But we're excited to have been requested to host some meetings and show off some of our buildings.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. And I don't believe we welcomed Owen to the group, so welcome as this year's student representative. Information was emailed to you, so take a look at your email because I provided the presentation, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, everybody have a great day. The meeting is adjourned.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care, guys.